Hello and welcome to the digital afterlife of grief. I am Ginger Lou and I am looking at the digital afterlife, generative AI, all that artificial intelligence stuff that we dabble with in regards to death and dying and grief, but also related news with regards to artificial intelligence. Things like policy, how it affects society, because these are all important things because, we're all going to die, and how social media, anything online, does affect, how we are living in this 21st century world. So in my podcast, I do a roundup of the news, and also any interesting articles that I have found with regards to the digital afterlife, and Griefbots and big tech companies also, and generative AI, how it's affected art and photography. Is AI taking over our jobs? Yes, it is. We have to find new ways of working, but such is progress. It's not going anywhere. It's already been chucked out the bag, let out the bag. AI is here, and it's already being used with regards to things like, if you have a look at my Medium page or my Substack page, you'll see that I've been experimenting with different generative AI services. There's services that can create videos and audio, and bots and things like that. And some of them are good, some of them are, a little bit hit and miss. But some of them, specifically audio, I found has really done amazing. I was quite impressed with that because all I did was record around about 15 seconds of my voice, and then created some text using ChatGPT, and it copied my voice absolutely perfectly. So I am going to try this on a dead relative and see if it can have a conversation and see if it mimics their voice. See what it comes up with. I don't think, for me personally, that's creepy because my dead relatives have been dead quite some time. So for me, it's kind of like, oh wow, wouldn't it be great if, just for the hell of it, say hello to my dead relative and they say hello back. I say, it doesn't seem as creepy because my relatives have been dead for some time. If for anyone out there who's been bereaved, it is a difficult time. It is an emotional time. It's a time when you sell your soul to have your dead loved one back. I mean, you basically would. And so I think using some of this death technology at that time can be risky for some. It can possibly create ongoing grief, where it takes longer than the usual. The usual average time is around about 2 years. Obviously, it can go longer, really depending on the person and how that affects you. If you're someone who's on their own, and your loved one is gone, you might take longer to get over it than if you have stuff in your life that allows you to get on with things and distract your grief. If you have, I don't know, lots of children, lots of stuff going on. So, but grief is personal, grief is individual, grief is different for everybody, of course. But the most important thing is that you must feel grief. You must be, have bereavement, because we're not robots, folks. If you hold it all in, you will explode at some point. Maybe not now, but maybe 10, 15 years down the line. So it is good to cry all about it. So I'm I'm an artist. I'm also doing my PhD on photography, art, and AI, and so I'm interested in the digital afterlife, specifically because I was going to do my PhD about 3 years ago, possibly, oh gosh, you know how you think it's going to be just a few years, but it's actually longer. I think it's 5 years ago, I think, while I was, or rather during, while I was caring for my mother at her end of her life. And this is where I started becoming really interested in death, because I was faced with it. Possibly the most important person in my life was dying, and after she died, it was something that I couldn't run away from, and I understood and really got how, all these wonderful people out there, these carers, nurses, doctors who deal with death on a daily basis, and how they do that, how they face it. And so, when you're faced with something like that, you kind of grow up a little bit, I think. I've always been pretty youthful, and lived a life in the fast lane, trying to dodge a bullet, as it were. And, who wants to talk about death? I don't care, and all the rest of it really doesn't. But then once you're faced with it, you get it, you understand, and it means that because you understand, because you've had lived experience, that you can comfort others, and you know what it's like for other people. And as you get older, of course, you get to a certain age when your parents are dying, and so that's happening to a lot of people. So I'm not saying that the older you get, it gets any better, but because I've had parents who've died at different times. So I had my dad who died when I was 29. My mum died just a few years ago. So different kinds of grief and bereavement for each one, specifically due to the fact of my age. So I'm not saying that I could deal with it better because I was older, but I was certainly a little bit more grounded than when I was in my 20s. But hey, I'm digressing. So as I said, I have been dabbling with a number of generative AI platforms that create videos out of photographs and audio that clones my voice with AI prompted text for dialogue. So, my PhD research aims to create the essence of myself using AI in combination with portrait photography and moving image or some other kind of art form, which I'm still trying to grapple with, and trying to do that. The reason why I'm doing it on myself is not because some kind of vanity, is because it's easy to say, well, let's just do it on a dead relative. But, I kind of made the decision when I was, doing my MFA in photography, and I was making a film about, caring for my mother. I didn't want her to be in it. Also, she didn't give me permission either because she had dementia. So it's not right. And also I have relatives who, while I'm thinking, oh, great, well, this is great art and all the rest of it, you're not really seeing it from the point of view of your relatives who think it's not on. So, and I'm glad that I didn't make it about, it was about my mum, but she wasn't in the picture, as it were. It's all about my mum, but she wasn't in the picture. And I'm glad I did that. I'm glad. But also my point is that I was going to do my PhD straight after, and it was going to be about, again, about death and grief and, my mum and all the rest of it, and dementia, because I was kind of in the thick of it. Again, I'm glad I didn't do it, because with being out of that bereavement, because don't forget, I've been grieving while I've been caring for my mum who's had dementia, and that's been a few years. So you're grieving the whole time. You don't realize it, but you're grieving the whole time. And so with space from that, I think, thank God I didn't make the project about her with her in it, because it's not right. My mum wouldn't have liked that. So so I took it, so that's why I'm doing it about myself, doing all these experiments on myself. But also I'm a portrait photographer as well, so I've done a lot of projects that have been self-portrait stuff as well. So it's kind of extended on that. But this is kind of a little bit different. But of course, I'm not, touch wood, I'm not dying, not that I know of, and I'm not in bereavement. I would say that grief is there, and I don't think it ever leaves you, because you're constantly reminded about your parents, my mum and dad, and when you think about them, you think of the great times, but then you feel a bit grieved because they're gone, because you miss them. So grief is always there, but you have to get on with your life, obviously. So that's why it's about me. That's a long answer, but that's why it's about me. I'm still searching for the right combination of AI technology to accurately represent who I am. I mean, I've been looking at quite a few, and new things come up on a daily basis by the look of it. That's why it's very much like the photography revolution when that first came out, where there was so many different kinds of technology, solutions, and ways of making film. Different cameras and stuff, and on the market, different ways of presenting photographs, whether it was little tiny little carte vista or huge portraits and things like that. So all these different things that are coming out on the market, they're fads. Some of them will be long term because the market really likes them, and others will just fade away. So this is a long-term constant thing when I'm doing my Google searches, where I keep finding these new platforms that create. I'm not just talking about death tech companies, but I'm talking about those that are creating video conferencing kind of stuff or audio stuff, and things like that. So if you check out my Medium or Substack pages, you'll see that some of the experiments that I've done with ChatGPT and also like 11 Labs and DID, which I absolutely really like actually. And things like that. And then there's another few platforms that I've tried out too. And whoa, I have no idea why that's doing that, so excuse me, folks. There we go. So I mean, on another one, I was also trying to dabble with culture and nationality and race, because we're all a mix of things, and something that's to do with my identity is very much the mix of things that I am. So I'm English, as you can tell by my voice, but I was also born in America. I'm also quarter Chinese, and my dad is half Chinese, and he grew up in China. And my mum's relatives are Irish, no doubt, who escaped the potato famine in Ireland and came to Liverpool. So there's a mix of things there. I mean, I've got red hair, ginger hair, blue eyes, so pretty much, Irish kind of look to me. And I have a Chinese name, and I'm very proud of my heritage. I'm very proud of my Chinese and English heritage. And I'm sorry about the Irish heritage. I'm saying sorry because I need to look into it more, which is what I'm going to be doing. When we were growing up, we had lots of Irish jokes and that Irish sense of humour, which is passed on to the Liverpool sense of humour. So for me, that Englishness of me is kind of in with the Irish and the sense of humour and the Liverpool sense of humour and things like that. So so I've also looked at Hey Jen, which is an AI video. Again, I looked at Storyville, Storyfile AI, and Hereafter AI that I've experimented with. Live Story, which is a little bit different. It's about photographs, and then Stability AI I looked at to recreate a mixture of those heritage, which I told you about, which is English, Irish, Chinese, and that American kind of look that you get. And so it's produced quite a few things from there. I also talk about an article that my dad cut out, and he still has. I just found it a few weeks back, which was in a newspaper about what an American would look like in 2034, and this was in the 90s. And then National Geographic did an update on that in 2013 about what would an American look like. And, they had, pictures of, say, someone who looked mixed race, so like an Asian looking person with blue eyes, an African American looking person with blonde hair and blue eyes. So that kind of mixture that we have. And, obviously my dad is very much mixed race. His mother is English and his dad's Chinese. So he was very much interested in that, and I've kind of followed on with that, as his sister is as well, my aunt. So I put into Stability AI, what would an American British woman with red hair who's quarter Chinese, quarter Irish and English, what would they look like? And they basically come up with someone who looked Asian looking with very red gingerish hair, very bright gingerish hair, and then someone who kind of looks like an American model, or Caucasian American model with loads of red hair as well. So just quite kind of interesting to see, because there's obviously lots of stuff that's been out there writing about how this generative AI is, when it's scraping the internet, it's got some racial and sex biases as well. So that's another reason why I did that too. So I found this article, which was really interesting recently, to do with Griefbots and death technology. I kind of wanted to explore the intersection of AI and mourning. And I don't know if you've heard the term Griefbot. Sometimes it's deathbot, Griefbot. It's basically a chatbot. That's what it is. It's a chatbot, but it's designed to comfort you, and it's a Griefbot is a copy of your dead relative. So in 2020, a young Chinese software engineer named Yu Jialin stumbled upon an essay about lip syncing technology that detailed synchronized lip movements with recorded speech. The concept of a Griefbot provided an opportunity to communicate his final words to the man who played a significant role in his upbringing. Yu created his grandfather's appearance, speech, and mannerisms from family photographs, videos, letters, and phone messages. Information he then used to train an AI model about his grandfather's personality. Initially, the bot's responses were generic, but as Yu provided more information, it began displaying more accurate representation of his grandfather's habits and preferences. Yu's ambition to recreate his grandfather is one example of a growing trend in China where the bereaved are using artificial intelligence to resurrect the dead. The rise of Griefbots in China coincides with the popularity of Yisus, a chatbot assistant that embodies the persona of a teenage girl and has more than 660 million users. In the United States, death tech companies have developed similar Griefbots like Replica Well, I'm calling it a Griefbot. Technically, it's not a Griefbot because a Griefbot is really about, as I said, it's the voice of your dead loved one. Replica, which I've talked about in detail in previous posts and podcasts, it's more of a comforting bot where you create an avatar and you chat to it, as support. So it's as a support, as a friend. If you're feeling lonely, you want to talk to somebody, and you can chat to them on your phone with text messages. Death tech companies like Hereafter AI provide an opt-in for individuals to upload their past personalities online. But for many companies, consent from the deceased is often missing. The use of personal information without explicit permission raises privacy and ethical issues, even among immediate family members. While griefbots offer a virtual presence and the ability to communicate with the deceased, they can also interfere with the limit control over the grieving process. In traditional mourning, we can store away old photographs and letters in boxes with the memories that can trigger grief, but griefbots can tempt the bereaved to communicate whenever they look at their smartphones. So, this might actually, as I said before, give you prolonged grief. And I have some kind of lived experience of this too, because as I'm doing a project that has to have me looking through some of my parents' belongings and finding things about myself, I am, looking at these memories, and they're making me sad. So, and all the grief is coming back again. I mean, there's a reason why we put things away in boxes and don't look at them again. But in some respect, though, as I didn't really dealt with my dad's death properly at the time and went off the rails. I'm kind of dealing with it now, but it's hard, very hard. So, months after its creation, Yu made the decision to delete his grandfather's Griefbot after he was becoming over-reliant on AI for emotional support. It is hoped that the majority of mourners eventually let their Griefbots fade out when the support is no longer needed. Who's going to do that, though, when you become attached to it? However, there is a risk that the damage of prolonged grief use can cause. Very much so. But can artificial intelligence recreate the disease? Grief tech companies definitely think so. Tech experts and grief therapists have debated the pros and cons of AI, but because the technology to replicate the deceased is still in its infancy, the social impact has yet to reach a consensus. In an interview with CTV News, Richard Curry, president of the Canadian Artificial Intelligence Association, say that impersonating the dead is possible, but don't expect perfection. He says, when it comes to recreating a real person, what will be missing is my memories, my ideas, my personality. It's not so much an AI problem, but a model documentation problem. In my research, I have created a persona using transcript data, voice synthesis, and video models. AI wrote my dialogue, copied my voice, and turned a still photograph into a video. The results weren't perfect, but it's close enough. AI needs to be trained by people. It gathers data to inform responses, and the exact replica of a loved one is impossible, but it's a long way off. AI is unable to separate fact from fiction, and because it is human nature to lie, you can see what issues lie ahead. I would have to document every single moment, event, or experience in my entire life in order for the AI to accurately copy me. Of course, there are a few death tech CEOs with lots of money and lots of ego who are doing that right now, which is kind of sad, I think, in a way. It's like, why don't you just live your life instead of constantly recording your life? Live it. Be in the moment and all that. According to Curry, what we document and what we actually think are very different things. There's more to us than just our memories or just our feelings relative to those memories. The background or context of a person, her personality and essence, the tech isn't there yet. Chat boxes are limited to how much context to sort through. AI can only make decisions on the input data and directions from humans. AI could only generate a superficial copy of the deceased. Curry says to turn a digital copy of someone who you just lost and chat with them as if they were still there and reminisce about old times, it really doesn't sound like healthy grieving behaviour. No, it doesn't, does it? Grieving isn't linear. I have developed prolonged grief, as I said before, because of my research. I've been looking at old photographs and letters, and they brought me up so many memories that I'm grieving all over again for my father who died 25 years ago. So perhaps Curry is right. How would AI impact the grieving process? Grief therapists aim to get the grief out of someone's head. Part of a person's grief process is recognizing their loss and reacting to the separation, recollecting the experience, relinquishing old attachments, and reinvesting their emotional energy elsewhere. Chatbots can help to create dialogue to get that grief out and talk about it. An organisation from the Dutch funeral industry recommends that individuals who want to be represented at their funerals by chatbots or holograms after their passing should indicate this in their wills. However, Bridget Weeman, the director of the Dutch BGNU, is sceptical. Determining whether AI, she says, can utilise a person's data, messages and images after the death should be subject to certain rule. Los Angeles-based company AE Studio has developed a program called Seance AI, which allows the bereaved to talk to a chatbot of their deceased loved ones via an app. Product designer and manager Jan Rox told Futurism, it's essentially meant to be a short interaction that can provide a sense of closure. That's really where the main focus is here. It's not meant to be something super long term. In its current state, it's meant to provide a conversation for closure and emotional processing, he says. I am going to try out Seance AI in the next week or so in a follow-up article and see what I think about it. Ghostbot scams. Digital reincarnations of the dead or ghostbots could be used in cyber scams. A ghostbot is an artificial persona such as a chatbot or deep fake which replicates and imitates facial features, voice and personality. According to Dr. Marissa McVie from Queen's University in Belfast, she says ghostbots lie at the intersection of many different areas of law such as privacy and property, and yet there remains a lack of protection for the deceased personality, privacy or dignity after death. While it is not thought that ghostbots could cause physical harms, she says, the likelihood is that they could cause emotional distress and economical harm, particularly impacting upon the deceased loved ones and heirs. The UK data protection and privacy laws do not extend to heirs after death, making it unclear who has the power to produce our digital persona. So all this technology is so new, there's until somebody, perhaps dies or causes some kind of other emotional problems, perhaps nothing is going to be done about, how chatbots and other forms of AI affect, people who are grieving, people in bereavement. It's so new. I mean, death tech companies have been around for a while, but the technology hasn't been there. A lot of these death tech companies you've been hearing about started last summer, and they're all over the news with regards to the technology used and how, isn't it great? We can talk to our dead loved ones and we can get through, use it as some kind of form of bereavement. But death tech companies have been there for quite some time. They've been using different kinds of technology, such as something online. What I think is pretty cool, actually, is having a scan, a barcode, at your at your funeral. On your, if you're getting buried, of course, you can have it on your tombstone. For a lot of us, though, who are getting cremated, that's not the option. So, but I think it's quite a cool idea that you can scan this barcode and then you can get all the history about this person, and so you can read about them, or they can actually share from their own voice and their video of them about who they are. But if so many people are doing that, how many people are going to read that, and how many people go to grave yards anyway? I mean, come on, how many of us do that? How many times have you in your life hung about a graveyard, right? Sure, it's nice to have a look through. You can read the gravestones, go, oh wow, that person died 150 years ago, or oh wow, that person died when they were only 5. Isn't that sad, etc., etc. But really, are we going to go through them and listen and watch the person who died? I don't think we're going to be doing that, are we? Again, it's very much like Victorian photography, and how we're trying to use this technology to aid in our bereavement, to make sure that we're never forgotten. Most of us will be forgotten, unfortunately. That's it for now. Have a good one.